So what you just said, what would that be? An example.
I found that in a linguist
Right.
sort of orientation to someone in sociology, something in linguistics, that would be interpreting the world as she saw the analogy in terms of language and symbols and so forth. Now, see, symbols, I just lifted my language in there, which is anthropological. Rituals, I see the world in terms of rituals and symbols and symbolic sort of activities and so forth.
That's helpful when you do the example.
And you used, I saw it in your writing too, you used analogy. You used the train, right? You talked about the train, I think, for some time in your paper and so forth, and you stuck with that sort of thing, which is sort of, you see the visual that was coming along with some of this, which is interesting. Just to know that helps me, not to manipulate, but because I use these techniques for good. It's about better communication, and it's about understanding and actually being able to reach out in systematic ways to be able to get your hands on a problem solve. With the bookkeeper that's stuck in her columns and so forth, or someone speaking another language, trying to figure out, okay, what's another way to communicate with folks. That's good. That's good. All right. All right. Associated with this is that, what one should learn the 3 T's here, associated with education for what and ways of seeing. Again, there's an infinite number of ways to kind of categorize these things. I found, students have found this particular way to categorize education for what very, very helpful, because it allows you to view educational phenomena, educational situations in particular kinds of ways. Education for transmission, education for transition, education for transformation. Now, what do you think education for transmission might mean?
Information, knowledge.
Can you give an example? One technique that helps us is you offer a generalization. You should do this in your papers too. Every time you get a chance. It's about the quality of the fire, remember?
Yeah.
Quality of the fire? The heat of that fire, what has to do with the examples, the evidence you can bring to the generalization that you make. And we avoid the awesome, right?
Yeah, and you want to back up.
It's awesome. Awesome.
Because I say so.
Right. Yeah, those are folks that you run into every day too, and you're trying to figure out, okay, what's the emic associated with that? Yeah. Breaking that emic is tough. Sort of thing, because that's just they're using colloquialisms to express something that's a more specific idea.
I just came up with an idea. So pretty much somebody who's trying to break the colloquialism and the other person is seeing that, and they do it back to the person, and they're going through this questioning, not debate, but this like exploration of where you're coming from.
Yeah, it's all code.
Is it kind of like a philosophical discussion? Or would that be just getting lost and trying to figure out where the other person's coming from and any frustration, or?
Well, it's a question of what your motive is. This allows, we'll get back to this in a moment. When you're looking at any sort of argument, it seems to me that you're listening to the perspective. This stands for motivation. This stands for the origin. Okay? I just put mock there because you can kind of, you may be standing in the middle of Siberia sometime, you're going, okay, let me figure out the situations. One of these things is going to resonate with you at some point in time. You go, oh yeah, mock. How am I going to get my hands on this situation here? Oh, mock. It's motivation, origin, perspective. All right? So, the origin, dude, at a rock concert or something, you find, okay, who am I talking with here? A rock star.
Where do they come from?
Yeah, what's the origin? Who is doing the talking here? Who is doing the origin? Who's doing the talking here about the emic? Right? So you're trying to understand as much as you possibly can about that individual. Emic, I think understanding emic has a tremendous. There are two big ICC terms here that helps you get your head around some of this. That's what you're talking about is, you know, just sharing the feelings of the rock star or whoever's talking, saying awesome and so forth, trying to identify, trying to empathize. It becomes empathy with the individual to understand this origin.
That was
somehow.
totally awesome, dude. That concert was great.
Okay,
Yes.
right.
Okay,
So-
I'm just trying to put this. I'm just trying to see this.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to,
that's good. I mean, the building block, it's interesting, everybody's parsing this differently, which is good. And then the other intercultural communication principle has to do with mindfulness. Mindfulness, it's like empathy, being able to understand where that person's coming from.
I was just thinking though, I still feel that if you're being empathetic or mindful, that you're always still, even on some subconscious level, even if you don't think about it, are always going to think of me and them.
No, that's right.
Does that make sense?
This is work. This is ICC work. This is work, right? You don't, just like you didn't have the theory quite right in your head.
Yeah.
You got to know you don't have it right. It is the intent. The holier than now stuff, though, you get that every day.
Yeah.
People with their nose in the air and so forth about what is, you know, my fire, and that's it. You know,
Yeah.
hey, come and join my fire, but that's it, sort of thing. That is not what we're talking about in IE work. I certainly am not, have never had it. It's at some point in time, yes, you can draw your, if you want to become the benevolent dictator and so forth, you can manipulate this kind of information to, you know, your agenda in particular kinds of ways. But yeah, what we're talking about here is a posture around being able to understand the origin of the individual through empathy and mindfulness. Those are important terms. By the way, if you're interested in this, it's Stella Ting-Toomey. Look her up. She does some really nice writing. I really like Stella Ting-Toomey. She talks about mindfulness and empathy and so forth around some of this. So that's origin. And so the perspective is what's stated, right? Actually, awesome. But you also said a great concert. So we know something about music. It's a concert. We know it's great.
Right.
And so you're coding. You're actually parsing out. You're doing an analysis.
A lot of this is kind of like subconscious then. If you're like, oh yeah, they do this, totally what you're being.
Well, it's how skilled you are. It's actually active work. It's not just subconscious. You're recognizing. It's back to one analogy has to do back with Plato's cave. Remember? What is humanity like? Humanity's lazy. They're sitting on their cans, staring at the back wall, smoking cigarettes, right? Just looking, you know, hey, I'm bound to it. People are in a state where they're not struggling. So, this is all work that you're doing. It may seem like it's sort of part of your chemistry, but actually you're actively going through these processes in your own way to be able to feel, understand something that looks like, okay, who is this guy? What's the perspective that's being shared here? And what's this person's motivation, right, in sharing it, right? Is the finance person, is that business person working the numbers? What could be her motivation? Say, no, you can't do that. No. I've got to get my, you know, this faculty member. We got to get him an extra $2,000 in South Africa. The finance officer going, no. What could be the possible motivation associated with that? Not being able to give you $2,000 to give to your study abroad person going to South Africa. What?
There's no more funding left.
There's no more funding left? Yeah. You're troubled.
Can't borrow from
You're messing with my columns. I just got my columns straight. How many people do you know like this? I just got my columns straight. Don't be messing with my columns, right? That's what you have to figure out. Okay, what's the motivation? Is it her? Is it because of her own order, or is it because of something that is, you know, more the quality of the fire? No, there are no funds available. You know, is it internal or external? Is it her or that situation? See what I'm saying on this?
You have to figure that out.
Yeah, and this is a constant battle. That's what it's this house. It's this house. It's this house of 1,000 windows. People are looking out their own windows, and you got to figure out where are they in this building, track them down. Because you got your own favorite, where's your favorite window? Give me one. Pick one now. Ground floor, top floor?
Top floor.
No, well, you see there's a top floor window there, sort of thing. So we know where to find her, by the way, now. So that's that. So stick with it. So the key to this then is being able to sort out, this is the analogy, being able to track down these folks and where they live, how they're thinking, what their motivation is, what their origin is, what their history is, being able to empathize with that and break through to understand it.
So you want us all over the house?
Yes!
Okay.
This is what you need to be able to explore. And this is what becomes the challenge, because you're talking about, oh, you know, we're better than everybody else. No way, man. These people are smart.
Yeah.
The person that's actually the person with the numbers, and she knows what she wants, and she's got her world figured out, and you're interacting with her world. Also, you get into this kind of work and this kind of theory and so forth when we're talking about research and pushing the envelope back of what the world looks like, and going from cave walls with scribbles on it to iPads. There's something going on there that we, you know, how can we get our head around some of these ideas about, you know, progress? Which leads us back to these 3 T's again. Some folks see in this world education for what? Education is just about transmission. Historically, this has been traditional cultures in particular, but also you go to the Tea Party political movement that talks about, you know, the way order is and so forth, value systems. Education is about transmitting values that, you were talking about the good of society, right? That's, okay, there's certain things that are standards there that needs to be transmitted from generation to generation. All right? Traditional cultures, we'll talk about non-Western cultures. Can you think about traditional African cultures, for instance, different African cultures? The emic on this, get the emic on this. This actually happened. You walk through the forest, okay, you're going to get water, you get the water in the pail on your head and so forth. You walk into the forest and you stub your toe on a stump, okay? On the way to the well. So you've walked that way 1,000 times and you've stubbed your toe today. What's your explanation of that event?
God put that toe.
Is this the way? This is your way of thinking.
Yeah, true.
I wasn't paying attention to where I was going.
Someone
All right.
something there.
Yeah. So I'll put this thing down. So anyway, I'm a little pointy today, but that's all right. So yeah, what are you're saying to yourself? I wasn't paying attention?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Wasn't paying attention. Man, does that hurt? Sort of thing. Oh well, and you go on to your business. A more traditional education for transmission, non-Western sort of educational sort of standard would be, go ahead. That's what you said was actually.
It was meant to happen. God did it.
Yeah.
Put it there.
Who?
Destiny.
Yeah. Who's blinded me? Who's blinded me? I've been down this walk 1,000 times. I know this walk. Something has blinded me to the stump. So you see the ownership and the knowledge. You see the difference between Plato saying, "No, it's our responsibility for knowing what a shadow is when we see it." That is a fundamental different way of seeing the world that we must be able to. It's a radically different kind of way of seeing the world, but it's an important way to recognize that people believe this. They believe this is the way they understand the world. It is just as right in their mind as, you know, E equals MC squared is to U. And all this. So to appreciate that becomes a very powerful sort of way to be able then to work with it when you need to get something done. Or you need to help enable, you know, facilitate the educational situation and learn and also share and also progress perhaps. So, the notion is in African cultures, a lot of traditional cultures, is that, you know, there are rites of passage to adulthood and so forth. Education means becoming, you said it earlier, becoming a benefit to society. It's about how do we produce good citizens. How do we produce good citizens in, you know, the Zulu village sort of thing. Or, and so the elders are respected, they're listened to, they have the code, for society, they share that code with the young'uns, and the young'uns become adults, sort of thing. Simple as that. That is education for transmission. Same thing in traditional American society, too, or Western society as well, in terms of transmitting values. You know.
So knowledge passed down is transmission?
Yes, transmission. Knowledge that is passed. Knowledge that is passed. And it is designed to do what? Education for what? If it's for education for transmission, what is it good for?
Maintain.
Yes, status quo. It's about maintaining the status quo. It's about maintaining the unity of whatever the situation is. So, very good. Yeah, it's all about status quo with regard to that. All right? On the second level has to do with probably the most popular and easiest sort of concept, living in the day and age we live in, is education for transition, which is what? Go ahead and say it.
Progress?
Progress. The notion of...
Something else.
So, yeah, it's the notion that there is something... This is about status quo. This is about something that is better through time, right? This is about S.I.T. tests. This is about student-teacher ratio. This is about facilities. This is about stakeholders. This is about policy. This is about better curriculum. This is about biology. It's got it? So this sort of thing. So if we, and what are some of the distinctive features then around education for transition, do you think? What are some of the assumptions?
Well, I thought transition more as like electronical. Like with progress, there's more technology and there's internet. And
what's the assumption underneath that? That's
That
actually, those are like products.
we're not as good as we can be. Like,
We could be
we're
better.
Very good. That's the glass half empty, glass half full. That's good. That's right. See, both of them you said the same thing in different kinds of ways. Very, very cool. Very nice. So yeah, that if we just keep working, if we work hard enough and so forth, we can reach the next level. We can go from a cave, the side of a cave, to an iPad, and this is all possible. Time magazine said that immortality is the cover of Time about 3 weeks ago was immortality. We will reach immortality by 2045. They had the plug in with the guy with the plug in. Yeah, that was a little horrific. I agree. Sort of thing around that. But that is the notion that progress, progress is our most important product. What is that? General Electric, I think that's their, logo, sort of thing. That we can do this sequentially, and if we work hard enough and we're smart enough, we will progress through time. There is the thing is when you start parsing some of these theoretical constructs, again, sitting in Siberia with your book, Habermas, and your village of folks that are there, you're going to be able to. You can at least do. You can say, oh, I can see what's going on here. It's educational transmission. These guys have got a really strong sense of linear movement as they're talking about education, right? Sort of thing, which has to do with transition. So you can frame it. That helps you frame the field. That helps you frame the field that allows you. It's like a playing field. It's not that playing field. It's not that window. And it's the same thing. Oh, this is the set of windows. Here's the transition windows are here. Transmission windows over here. You know what part of the house you're in, so that kind of frees your thinking up to understand what's going on in the minds of the folks. Does that make sense?
It does. I'm just thinking about Siberia because I was there for Peace Corps and how they're.
Wow.
I don't want to say, look, I sound like they're stuck in transmission because that makes it sound like it's bad, but they are in transmission. From my observation of the school there, I was like, they didn't see transition or transformation. They were transmission.
That's interesting you say that. I was at the Alliance of the Universities for Democracy, which are all the old Soviet universities.
Yeah.
I hadn't been around them in a long time, Cold War sort of stuff, but it wasn't that long ago. It was only 2 years ago. I was at this conference and delivered a paper. I was shocked by, we're talking about state universities, major universities, that are so fixated with the old-style Soviet way of political thinking and so forth, that clearly the aspirations were here. If we only could do this. But they were stuck in paradigms.
That's what I saw.
They were stuck in a political paradigm that was from the last century.
Yeah.
And we're talking about even young people, that young professors. I'm like,
It's
wow,
strange.
it was really blew my mind
Yeah.
around how stuck we were, because that's all that they have been served.
That's all they've known.
That's all they've known. You know what I was doing a conference? The conference subject was the Matrix.
Oh God! That was hard for them to wrap their heads around.
This is very nice. I need to know more about this. All right, we got you. Right, I did that sort of thing. No, but it was nice to see that was actually this stuff, as structured and visual, it has helped folks kind of open their eyes to different ways to look at their situation. Oh, it's political. I've been looking at this politically. But it's kind of, some of it is so obvious that we don't see it. It's like the person, an IE that's been there all their lives. They don't understand the world beyond them because they've not really fought their way out of the cave to look. All right.
But Rich, if transmission works for them, is it okay that they stay there? What if they're comfortable there and that's progressive?
Well, that's the difference. What's your answer to that? Are you an anthropologist or are you an SJ person? We'll get to yours. We still got this one coming here. It's still coming up here in a minute.
Well, if you said that their aspirations were obviously transitional, but if they were stuck, then that kind of...
Or no, even if they're... Are you saying that...
Well, he said that they're aspirations.
Well, I'm saying, is the goal always to get to transformation? Is it okay that some cultures or societies are... I don't know. It has negative connotations because maybe it's not it's been working.
Or maybe they
negative
don't want
connotations to who?
Me?
Yeah, to you. Right.
Yeah.
It's your baggage. And that's how come this is so cool, because you can work out your own stuff in your own head about where am I in this continuum with regard to, as an anthropologist, I didn't touch it, but you get into circumcision. And you get into some educational sort of stuff that is really, that's from education for transmission, is clearly feels so universally wrong. That it's hard to just be an observer to appreciate the way things are. It's okay. These are the choices that you get to make in your mind about about how you view different educational sort of settings. You're doing this triage all the time in your mind. The thing is that all this is doing is trying to better equip you to do a better job with regard to none of us I don't have a right. I don't have a right. That's the time I keep thinking and writing. By the way, I like to take walks and run. Does anyone do that?
I like to run around here without falling or slipping.
Yeah, that's true. But no, I mean, in terms of, I get a new idea almost every. Sometimes I get really bad ideas, but every time I exercise, doing some aerobic activity, I get a new idea.
Yeah.
You know what that is?
What?
There's more oxygen to your brain.
Yeah.
That's what happens with showers.
Yeah. Oh, good.
I wish you could write a paper while you run.
Showers and running, oxygen to your brain.
And also, you're kind of isolating. You can see how cluttered this classroom is and all the input you're getting here, but just to be alone with yourself and be able to shoot some oxygen in your head and be able to think clearly. I love it. Even when it really is really a bad idea, it's still, I come home and tell my wife, she's like, what is that? Where's that come from? Anyway, so that's that. All right. Education for transmission. Education for transition. And education for transformation, this is S.I.T, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Freedom.
Right.
Revolution. Change.
What?
I see transformation.
Revolution.
It's about
change.
this is the kind of the agenda item that for me as an IE professional is what this is the agenda item I'm trying to put everybody on. Is that the international experience, incoming, outgoing, is potentially a transformational experience, right?
Yeah.
For the individual. It changes, it's a life-changing experience.
Right.
And so, that's how you get in our craft, we start talking about experiential education, different ways to think, not just, being served up educational sort of orientation to, but there are different techniques for transformational education. This is when you get into the writings. Who's doing liberation theology? Yeah. So, liberation theory and so forth, you can talk more about this, but this is when we start talking about John Dewey and Paulo Freire.
Oh, this school loves that guy.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Now you'll see why in a moment.
Lots of schools.
My whole dissertation, I was working on this. I was working on this years ago, and I really didn't understand how politicized it is. I was actually going from a more anthropological, like this kind of human condition sort of orientation to liberation. But Freire sees it in real political terms,
Yeah.
sort of thing. What I tried to do in my dissertation, doctoral dissertation, is actually it was a study in working in Lesotho in southern Africa of depoliticizing the Freire a transformational experience. And I think I learned from that it can't be.
I was going to say, did you do that? How was that?
I'll talk about it sometime if you're interested. You know, it's in terms of facilitating education, kind of the work we do here. I was doing it years ago and really was trying to find vocabulary around all that. John Dewey, Freire. Can you give me some examples of what education for transmission might look like, how it's done, and education for transition, how it is done?
Dang, yeah. Okay, so I'm in a program. I worked as a GA for a professor who taught secondary education, like teachers how to teach, right? Secondary education. And she was definitely in the transition, like, she wasn't much in transformation, like this is going to be life changing, how are we going to put internationalization into this, like what about other people in the world? And it was so interesting to see how her department was one floor above my department. My department was about transformation, like experiential learning and hands-on experiences.
How did she teach? How did the folks around her teach?
Folks, I mean, they kind of tried to engage, but they did like discussions about things. But when it came to her working with students, like in 8th grade, it was very much more, and I just see how she thinks now. I see how she thinks, and it's very bizarre. I see she thinks in transition, like, yeah, but what's the student-teacher ratio? How were there learning circles involved in this research study?
It's very systems-oriented, right?
Very systems-oriented. Well,
but has she gone through transformation? Isn't it? I don't know.
I don't know.
I through transition, you're gonna go through
You're
transformation.
going to have textbooks. You're going to have learning circles. This is very nice, as a matter of fact. And they have to have 7 people in the group. Anyway, they're going to be everything's very prescribed with regard to. And if we do this, there will be no child left behind. Right. So this is the no child left behind kind of stuff.
Which
it's just like, okay, we've got merit. You know, it's about exams. It's about accomplishing tasks and so forth. If this, it's cause and effect. If this, then that.
Sounds like logic and philosophy.
Yeah. Well, and if this, then that.
Yeah.
It's directional in terms of more knowledge. And what we'll be seeing here, the structural functionalists, this is what they're all about, sort of stuff. Structural functional sort of school of thinking and theories are all about, they're very recognizable. Sort of thing, because you can actually, if you pick up a chapter of structural functionalism, because we are from this culture, we will easily understand, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and the end tells us, things will be better if we only did this policy, if we only did that trans-border, I was supposed to bring it up, trans-border, educational, cross-border, right? Cross-border, I talk about transnational, cross-border. Right. These techniques will bring a better conclusion. How about education for transmission? I even brought up an example of that.
I'm thinking of elementary school, like 2 + 2 = 4. This is how you do your times tables, like very rudimentary, like
rote, oral, like.
Yeah, both of these can actually be rote. You're right. Actually, there could be more. Yeah, that's very good. Actually, the rote. That is really an earmark. Rote learning is really an earmark of transmission.
The post-Soviet places are very much, we learned that before we went to S.I.T. They wrote, it's memorization, it's memorization for passing the test, but there's no hands-on experiential, there's nothing like that.
If we do that, if we learn all that stuff, then it becomes a strong society, sort of thing. It's a strong village, a strong community, a strong nation, as the case may be, with regard to that.
We were encouraged in the Peace Corps, for transformation and encouraged to do activities that made them critical thinking and critical thinking because they hadn't had that. And it was really tough. Because we were only going in 2 years, but they were very set in their ways.
Yeah.
And I worked with a teacher who was 60 and very much transmission. And
Were you looked down upon when you tried?
Yeah, they didn't think I was serious. They saw my ideas as silly and game playing, and what does that have to do with education? So it was really hard to...
Have you figured out that, have you seen the folks from these different parts of the world that come here to S.I.T.? Their walls come down.
I bet. I want to talk to Rakia about that,
difficult.
because I bet she comes from a similar background.
Are you recording this now?
I don't know. Are
Oh,
we recording it?
it looks like it's on, but
No, we'll see later.
the screen's on.
Yeah,
It's
it's being recorded.
Yeah. I'm probably out of shot here. It doesn't make a difference, so you get to see the board. And it's all.
Yeah.
And I'll be right back.
Okay. So, yeah, what were we saying about the...
Wrote.
Oh, yeah, rote memorization. Yeah, it's designed to strengthen
So that's very-
solidify society and so forth.
With transmission.
Yeah, the transmission, and to a certain extent, transition, because what you're saying, if you learn this, if you're able to decode this body of knowledge, ones and O's, in the world of technology and so forth, if you learn this, then you'll be able to make an iPad. You'll be able to produce that. You'll be able to program. You'll be able to, go about your work. So that's learning. By the way, Freire talks about that being something known as banking education. Banking education. In other words, you've got your teacher and the student, and the teacher fills the student up with knowledge.
They're just talking to them.
Yeah, it's filling up with knowledge and so forth. And that's, so the student is filled up with the knowledge of... So, the presumption is that what the teacher is sharing is valuable. That's what the assumption is
It's
there.
100% correct.
Yeah, and we know better than that. Which leads us to this last category that has to do with education for transformation. This opening the world up, that, shaking, rocking folks' world in terms of think differently about the world. And that happens inside the individual. Which makes education is a fundamentally life-changing sort of experience. This course, I'm thinking, has some elements of transformation because the potential here is to get you to think totally differently about education in itself. While I'm shoveling this stuff up, you're seeing it differently, you're using it differently, and so forth. It allows, gives you some freedom about how to explore different windows that you would have never thought of before to be looking through. The folks that are trapped in the IE office or looking at the back of the cave, yeah, they may wander from room to room, but it's usually to go to the bathroom or something. They're not. It's not really. They don't really know what they're doing. They just kind of encounter new information. See what I'm saying? Well, what you're doing is you're intentionally figuring out where people are living in this house, and you're actually visiting rooms and figuring out how they think, how they live, and to be able to empathize and understand how you can connect with them, either to bring them to your agenda or else learn enough to borrow what they've got to work with them and so forth. It's great stuff. What else can be said about training? Yes, this is liberating. It is also confusing as can be. Really confusing, because a lot of the postmodernist literature comes from this transformational sector. You're taking PI too? Mm-hmm. You're taking PI? Mm-hmm. Have you talked about action research? What do you know about action research?
That it informs your practice, right? Or
Yeah.
that you put it, that you use it, or that you're doing it for a reason.
Yeah, there's purpose in action research. But having said that, that's presupposing some small truths. I don't want to get off into that. The thing, because it already becomes a bit confusing when we start talking about education for transformation. Postmodernist work, modernist theory, in a nutshell, is connected with consensus theory. In other words, they're assuming that there is a status quo that can be maintained, right? Cause A plus B equals C. Modernist theory it has to do with consensus. Structural functionalist, even dependency theory that comes out of that area. Human capital definitely that comes out of modernist theory and so forth. Also transitional, education for transition is also tends to use modernist theory, which is also about consensus. If we only do this, if we do these things, then we will have a particular kind of result.
So is the modernist theory, modernist theory more construction because postmodern is deconstruction and renovation?
Yeah, postmodernist theory tells us what you will find. You'll encounter in some of the CER, the Comparative Education Review articles you're going to be reading, you don't know a postmodernist when you see it. Mm-hmm. You know why? What might be the features of a postmodernist piece of literature that...
I remember reading a long time ago that they're talking about buildings, or like making analogies of buildings, but like, I think they talk in terms of society and like deconstructing these ideas and these norms. And, is that right?
Yeah, okay. That's somebody talking like a postmodernist.
Yeah.
The thing is that for me, and again, I'm sort of prejudiced in this area, sort of thing, because I found when I was doing my PhD work, it was like phenomenology started coming about as a practice. I know these phenomenologists, 3 or 4 of them were in the hallway with me constantly. We shared the same hallway. I never could figure out what they were talking about. We'd have a conversation together. This was a good while ago. We'd have a conversation together. And it was just like gibberish. I could not see the introduction to the body and the conclusion of what they were talking about, because postmodernist writing is about deconstruction. It is about telling you what is wrong with your theory, right? It's about you're saying that the teacher fills up the student with truths and so forth. The postmodernists are going, wait a minute. There are how many billions of people on the planet? Every one of those billions of people are different. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that they're saying is that, okay, let's appreciate the billions. All right? Let's appreciate the variation here associated with this. So, building economic theories, political theories, social theories, start, middle, finish, if this, then that. Postmodernists are going, stop it, right?
So they're skeptical about all the theories?
Well, they are, but for reasons that Desiree was sharing here. I mean, they're intensely, oftentimes the constructs are really dense and intensely personal. And the positions become very difficult. I mean, you have to sort through every paragraph to understand how they are deconstructing a particular, modernist theory, or what they're saying about feminism or critical theory. What sort of critical theory? They self-define. The thing is, E equals MC squared, the laws of gravity, and so forth. You can figure, okay, those are like truths that are sitting outside the cave. The postmodern is saying, no, that's not the way these things are. This is not how this works. There is no magical, perfect chalkboard sitting out. It's every person for themselves, sort of thing. And everybody has a different idea of what truth might be. You see how I start tripping over my own tongue when I start.
I think I agree with that, though. Everybody might have their own truth. I think I'm a postmodernist.
So what is going to be the challenge then for you? What do you need to be able to do then?
To let them have their own truth.
Okay. And so what's going to be the challenge for you as an IE professional in that?
Holding your tongue.
Holding your tongue, reserving judgment. Because the minute you pass judgment, what have you suddenly become? Modernist.
Yeah.
The minute you pass judgment, you've built a framework around it, a consensus theory. You think you've made sense out of what they've deconstructed. And you see what I'm saying here? It's a little subtle, but you start making judgments based on a logic that you have constructed there. Going, well, this is right. What they're saying is right. So suddenly that becomes more of an absolute than the relative sort of piece of it. Again, I don't want to get... It's kind of like what you were talking about, basic theory anyway. I just want to get you to get a feel for this. Yeah, none of us know. I don't know a lot about this stuff.
Yeah.
I know it when I see it. It's most of our work has to do with recognition. That's what negotiating this house is about. There's a difference between recognition and recall. I'm trying to get you equipped to the place where you've got enough recall. Well, transmission, what is it again? Motivation, origin, petunias, no, perspective. Anyway, you see, when you it's easier to recognize a phenomenon when you see it and decode it than to recall some of the theories around it, and that's okay. But again, what we're trying to do, though, is get you to see more rooms of the house in some of this.
I just wanted to clarify something about transformation. Is that, I understand that it's, transformation of an individual, but is that in terms of, transformation in an individual needs to occur so that transformation of the society, is it within that, or is it just focused on individual transformation? I mean, what's the...
You can talk about transformation or either society, too. Education for transformation can be societal, too. If you have liberated individuals and so forth, you can transform.
That's the idea behind...
Also, this is how come this becomes a little slippery, as we'll see in a chart. You think Marxism is what?
Negative.
Marxism, modernist, postmodernist, power of the people?
Power to the people.
Which would be modernist or postmodernist?
Modernist.
Yeah, good. When I was growing up, when I was younger, I thought it was postmodernist because it's about freedom, liberation of people. Some way. There's some sort of liberation sort of piece to all that. That the proletariat, being crushed by the bourgeoisie, and then being freed, and there'd be a transformation, the utopian society, and all this. I saw this once upon a time kind of in postmodernist terms, because of the feeling that's associated with it. And what's wrong with capitalist society, deconstructing that. But no, you're absolutely, I'm glad you all picked up on that. It is really super modernist. I mean, it is determined, it's like fatalistic. This happens, you get a dialectic, there's a war, there's the bourgeoisie is overthrown, the proletariat survives. It is highly modern. It's a high consensus theory. It's about conflict. It's about conflict, but it's not conflict theory. It's about conflict because there's order to it. Make sense? You can nuance. Some of this is nuance, not to worry about it.
So New Hampshire would be modern.
What's that?
New Hampshire, their motto is live free or die. So that'd be like modern.
Live free or die?
Live free or die.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, because there's an order around that. The libertarian spirit is actually the libertarian spirit that's associated with New Hampshire is definitely a modernist sort of theory. Give everybody the right to do what they want. But there's a determinism about all of that. If we all should have the freedom to be able to do that. Postmodernists are doing something else here. It's about critiques and so forth. That what they'll do. The thing about postmodernist literature, and we'll talk more about this next week, is that they're great about telling you what's wrong with the situation. But what?
They can't say what's right or what.
They don't tell.
Positive.
Yeah.
Well, they don't tell you what's right because that means that they would be speaking.
They would have modernist.
They would be modernist because
Yeah,
they would say, well, this is right. So they can't really say.
Postmodernists can't have an absolute truth.
Yes, so they can't tell you what to put in its place.
Right.
They can tell you what's wrong with it, but what drives me nuts, drives me crazy when I'm reading postmodernist literature is like, you're going through it, beginning, middle, end. Okay, what's the punchline? There is no punchline. It drives you nuts, sort of thing. You're reading this stuff. It just told me what's wrong. but they're not going to help here because suddenly it becomes slips to the consensus side of the fence again. So you can make it, so if you think that way, you can make an entire career of just pointing fingers and writing about people and not say, well, I don't know.
I like that. You might have me go slower.
And smoke your pipe or whatever and go on to the next thing. So. All right. That's good. Everybody got that?
Yeah.
So we got this through. We got the transmission, transition, transformation, consensus, conflict, modernist, postmodernist sort of setup. And you get the idea of 1,000 windows sort of thing.
Sure.
It's really important.
Yeah.
If you read the rest of my chapter, if and when, I talk about the GPS system then too.
Yeah.
This is what this is.
I read that part.
It's a GPS system. It's kind of a mental GPS
It's a
system to be able to
mapping.
understand where you are in this house, to be able to locate yourself so that you can actually find where you are. Very nice. I did that one on a walk, on a run. The GPS, I had the article entirely rewritten and so forth. I still know where I was in the woods and so forth. I looked skyward and said, "Oh, it's just like a GPS system," sort of thing. So that came about. So that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And the conclusion had to do with even if you choose to, make a U-turn now, you've gone the wrong way, sort of thing. Is that, it allows you the opportunity to choose whichever way you want to go. You don't have to go the way the thing's telling you to go. Around some of that. One other piece, we'll take a little break here, then we'll come back and do the matrix, and then we'll get into your schools of theory and be done. But Lambert talks about the research practice sort of end of some of this. He talks about the tribes. And some of you, I think you dealt with some of this with even in Sora's class. That on the research side, Lambert talks about the academic tribes, about let me borrow some of this. Research and practitioners. Research and practitioners. He talks about area studies, and i.e. he talks about transnational studies. He talks about foreign language studies. This is the way he sees the CIES kind of house, and you can kind of talk. If you're a Siberian expert, yeah, you can deal with Siberian sort of education. Right? Look at that. I mean, in the modernist, traditional, postmodernist, transformational, transition, transmission sort of way, you can deal just with Siberian education. You can look at transnational studies, transnational education. Again, I was looking at the post-Soviet when at the autumn the conference I was at. I was looking, oh my gosh, look at the similarities here about what's going on. Look at Bologna, the Bologna process in Europe and so forth, transnational. He focuses also on foreign language studies. Again, that kind of dates him as well because that's the post-World War II sort of interest in where people are what are people studying. Mandarin now, Arabic now. So there's an interest in that on the research side and what that looks like. On the practitioner side, he puts study abroad, international student services, and something he calls the applied disciplines, which is kind of a catch-all. You can see the difference, right? I mean, you can see the difference of your focus. These are the people who call themselves international educators. The folks that call you, if you're in this house with 1,000 windows and so forth. This is international student services or administration. Okay, study abroad, international student administration, and applied disciplines. What does he mean by that? I've forgotten. Oh, future careers like training, Peace Corps training. It's the training piece for practitioners, kind of the stuff we do at S.I.T, I think. As I follow my career, let me just briefly, I kind of did a little study on myself that through my career, I got interested in British history when I first was in school and so forth. and also adult education. But I was so young at the time, I saw it as a research piece. And I was out of the school of education for transmission. It was just kind of rote learning. I was a researcher, but I was doing kind of rote. That's how.
Are they in undergraduate education? Are they trying to lean more towards transformational, like experiential learning, or are they still doing more rote? Because they're doing more rote. Like you have 2 tests, multiple choice.
Yeah, that's the more traditional.
That's more traditional.
Yeah,
Is that how you
my
guys
undergraduate.
That's how you work?
This place is definitely not like that.
What's going on now are skills based. You want to go to school now? Skills based. And it's more monosyllabic than I've ever seen it. It's all skills based sort of thing. And also it's about learning outcomes, about outcomes, results. Did I talk about inputs last time?
Isn't this repeating the past skills and outcomes? I remember learning about, we've done this before, this era, we've done learning for skills and outcomes before. And it was in, gosh, I can look it up.
It was in what?
I want to say it was in an era. It was like after World War II, maybe when people were going back to school to
Yeah.
get more skills.
Yep. In times of
That's
economic,
when the GI Bill was established.
yeah, in times of economic, when there's economic need and so forth, the drivers
But
quickly
like
turn
the
to.
influx of vocational schools would be an example of skills and outcomes,
Right.
right? You go, you get trained in something specific like, I don't know,
Right.
mechanics, and then when you're done, you can
Mhm.
build a car or fix a car or whatever, right? Vocational skills would be
Yeah.
an example.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yes. Also, even the liberal arts. Again, we're going to get into a different discussion. We don't watch it here. The liberal arts small college. Anybody go to a liberal arts college? What was the philosophy?
Teaching you how to think and write.
Yeah, how to do that is
Actually, I didn't go.
so it's the well-rounded individual sort of thing that will help you work all 3 of these. You think and critically think and that sort of thing. Having said that, there's a lot of pressure on being able to deliver hard skills now, though, for
In
students.
undergraduate.
Yeah, at the undergraduate level.
That's really great.
It's still competitive. The idea of the well-rounded individual for the enlightened society and the notion of transition is still there, but there's a lot of competition out there that I got to get a business degree, and I got to have the outcomes that's going to get me to law school. The result is being able to go to law school.
Yeah.
It's not just becoming an enlightened, good hippie citizen sort of thing around this.
How do you see S.I.T. going?
Yeah, the provost is here. The provost is here.
For sure. Because the changes
Provost is right
that
here.
are
The
happening-
faculty are not there for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we are there, but we're both and. I mean, you can see what's going on in this classroom. You can see what's going on in practitioner inquiry. You can also see with, you got the new foundations course, right? See, the old foundation is actually 4 courses.
Right.
And we've cut that in half. That's not, the faculty did not do that.
I heard that.
The faculty did not do that because of the values layered in this transformational piece are very, very important to us, sort of thing. For IE students to get the social change piece, although they may not like it, because a lot of our IE folks are all skills.
Would you say that we missed out under the new? In your opinion,
The
just
school's
say
still
it.
out. I don't know. I can't say because I've not seen the new foundations course in action. I did teach social change and I taught ICC. One thing I would say personally, you can take this, is that I think that I think everyone should be taking more ICC work here, intercultural communication. That's me talking.
Yeah.
And
That was the class where the students went to Turkey and went to Mexico, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have our opportunity,
You don't get that.
I'd like to see a master's degree in intercultural communication, I think, but what skill set do you get out of that other than be a trainer for it? But the world needs it. The United States Army needs it in Afghanistan.
True.
Whatever. Although S.I.T. faculty would never be training U.S. Army there, you know. But somebody's got to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, either going to be there anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, whatever. Get me on a rant on some of this stuff. But, where was I? Oh, yeah. Just to go through this, for the next few years, I mean, I was interested in British history, then African history, then anthropology. It was all research, adult education. It was all kind of transmission stuff, learning, you know, picking it up. When I was in the military, and I was a civil affairs officer stationed at Fort Leavenworth during the Somalia, Black Hawk Down stuff. I didn't know what was going on then, sort of thing. But I became aware in a hurry about, I was actually teaching intercultural communication to folks that were going to Somalia. These guys in these helicopters and so forth. And immediately I saw application about the very thing we're talking about, cultural sensitivity, how to be able to work productively with citizens in different places. Mind you, that brought me to kind of a very difficult place with regard to, okay, what's the ethics around some of this? But I was a military officer at the time, and so I was trying to do the best job in terms of, okay, do the empathy, mindful sort of work that's necessary to actually be able to help build a school rather than blow one up, sort of thing. That became kind of transitional. So, there's a piece here that they need to learn. I had to research it in those terms as a researcher and then a practitioner. So I was working both sides of the fence in this area. Right? Let's look back on that. Just a couple other things too. PCU, when I went to Lesotho building schools, I thought it was going to be a practice, to build schools with communities and so forth in a transitional kind of way, only to discover through the Freirean method and so forth, oh my God, there's transformational stuff going on in these communities. I mean, and so I was learning as a practitioner. I was doing a little bit of research along with it, but there were some dynamic sort of transformational things we can talk about later that were happening in the community. It's like, oh my gosh, I had nothing to do with this, but I'm learning a lot, they're learning a lot, all sorts of things around that. So I got about a dozen examples of that. You could probably do your own career. You can do your own career the same way, around thinking about these things. Got it? Got it? Recognition, easier than recall, but if you can negotiate this board in some of these ways, consensus, conflict, and so forth, these are the foundational pieces for the puzzle that we're about ready to put together, and they'll help the matrix that we'll be talking about. Let's take a break. Okay? 15 minutes. Ooh, come back. Good work. I didn't think I had anything to say this morning. Is this thing still on?
I think so. It's still running.
Let's see, how do we make it pause? Playlist. Photo. There's got to be. If we were holding it this way, it would tell us.
How many educators does it take to turn on? Is it this? Yeah, it starts up.
Okay.